Did you know that in 2017, drug overdoses set its all-time high record for deaths? Probably not. However, I'm quite certain we can all agree that it is becoming more common for us to know at least one person, if not several people, in our inner circles, distant friends, or maybe even relatives who are currently using or have used drugs in the past. Sadly, a large portion of that group are young adults. It's imperative that we persevere in our struggles to conquer drug abuse, especially in young adults. With the number of negative effects that are associated with drugs, it brings forth this question of why is it such an attraction for these younger generations to experiment with drug involvement. High school is a transformative time. It's a situation in which these students become more susceptible for negative influences, and the most common of them being illegal drugs. When I say transformative, I mean a time period in which they go through these dramatic changes in all aspects. So in other words, even these students who have been predicted to have a very, very low risk for ever having any drug issues, they may be introduced to drugs, or even worse, partake in them. According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, a quarter of all American high school students use at least one illicit drug. When evaluating these heavy results, one is forced to consider that there has got to be some reason for such astronomical numbers. And the truth is, there are several factors that play into provoking these behaviors. In the moment, giving in to peer pressure or being cool or just making yourself feel better might seem like the right thing to do. But what about the long-term effects? Drug abuse is a destructive vice in anyone's life. The physical damage that's done can hardly be gone without notice. I mean, we see an abuser's personality shift in a matter of seconds, and we've also seen several homes and families that have been ripped apart. There are, however, some negative effects that maybe just aren't as obvious and go unnoticed. The health effects. The reality is, those who start in high school are more likely to have a much harder road for recovery. Consequences of addiction are numerous and they are costly. Using illegal drugs can totally change the way that we think, permanently. It also inhibits our ability to learn and to remember things no matter how important they might be. The upsetting and paradoxical truth is that with an extended use of drugs, it often brings forth these feelings that are the exact same reason why some people started using in the first place. And here's how. Drugs deplete the brain of certain chemicals that it needs, such as dopamine and serotonin. Without those drugs, it sends these students or young adults into this prolonged depression. And that opens up a door for more destructive behaviors. Now, although these symptoms don't really or are not biased about who they want to affect, the sad truth is that the younger they start, the harder it is for these people to seek freedom. In our efforts to prevent drug abuse, we should understand everything that it entails, and that includes the side effects all the way down to the signs and symptoms. The only way that we are truly going to be able to help and maybe even eventually stop this nationwide issue is to equip ourselves with knowledge. In turn, it creates an opportunity for us to educate these young adults and students about the negative effects that drugs bring with them before they're introduced to these said substances. However, in order for us to educate them, we first have to be fully knowledgeable ourselves. Luckily, the Rehab Center offers 10 easy steps on their website to prevent drug abuse and also to aid those who have already been affected. The first option is a phrase that students probably hear all the time when discussing drugs. Just say no. Now, more often than not, that phrase is also associated with peer pressure. And that's why step number 2 does such a great job by helping eliminate scenarios such as this by telling them to create connections with friends. Now, option number 3 takes that even a step further and says to create connections with your parents, and if you feel like you can't do that, then to create connections with other adults that you can place your trust in. The Rehab Center also says that we should encourage these students to do things that they love, to make plans, but to also force them to follow family rules that are set before them and to speak up for themselves and others. The last 3 options on their website applies to everyone, and it tells us to consider our position and our impact, to get informed, and most importantly, to help. Drug abuse is a nasty, nasty thing to be in, and it takes people's life, whether figuratively or literally. Maybe you guys will never ever have to help somebody with drug addiction, but what if you did? Would you know what to say or what to do? Get informed and be a part of the solution.